changed it to the CMC. That was county requested.
Okay, it's 5:30. Welcome to our June meeting of the Committee of Adjustments. First off, the municipality of Strathroy-Caradoc acknowledges that it's located on Treaty 21 territory. We're thankful to the generations of people who have taken care of this land, including the Chippewa, the Thames First Nation, the Munsee Delaware First Nation, and the Oneida Nation of the Thames. Okay, and for a roll call, I'll go into session.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Sajal Osman. I'm the Acting Secretary Treasurer for the Committee of Adjustment tonight. I will be hosting the meeting and managing participants. Committee members joining us this evening include Councillor Kennis, Member Vian, Councillor Pelkman, Deputy Mayor McGuire, and Member Terpstra, who is also our Chair. Municipal staff in attendance this evening are Alyssa Soldo, which is our planner with the County of Middlesex, Aaron Vesh, planner with the County of Middlesex, Jake Derridal, coordinator here at Strathroy, and Melanie from the Legal and Legislative Services team. Tonight we have 5 applications to be heard by the committee. The chair will introduce each application and provide the applicant and agent an opportunity to speak to the application. The planner will follow with the report. The public will then be invited to make comments or ask questions about the application. The chair will then call upon the committee to ask questions and comments before the chair calls for a vote on the application. Once a decision is made, there is a 20-day appeal period from the date of decision for minor variances and 20 days from the date of notice of decision for consent. If anyone wishes to be notified of the decision, you can make a request today or make a written request following this meeting. Thank you.
So then I'm looking for the approval of the agenda for the June 5th Committee of Adjustment agenda be approved as presented. Frank, and supported by Dale. All in favor? And that carries. Is there any declaration of pecuniary interest? No, seeing none. And then we have our minutes. Everyone had a chance to read the minutes, go through the minutes. There's a recommendation that the Committee of Adjustment meeting minutes of May 1st be approved as written by Steve, supported by Dale. All in favor? That carries. Okay, then we're moving on to the submissions for consideration. There's an application for consent B6 2025 at 269 Burn Street, Strathroy. And owner, I think Stephen Kennedy in attendance or here? No? No, not here. Okay, I'll go to you for the report.
Thank you, Chair. This application before committee tonight is to convey a portion of the subject lands, being 269 Burn Street, for the purposes of merging it with the adjacent lands, being 251 Burn Street, through a consent for lot addition. The effect of the application would be to provide additional land for a proposed future residential development on the adjacent property. The subject property is located on the north side of Burn Street, southwest of McKellar Street in Strathroy. The subject property is approximately 1,011 square meters in size, containing an existing single detailing on private services. The lands to be conveyed are approximately 140.27 square meters in size, containing no buildings or structures. And the retained lands at 269 Burn Street will then be 870.70, and the lands at 251 Burn Street with the addition would be 2.4 acres in size. No comments were provided by the public prior to the development of this report. Provided agency comments include the Senior Development Coordinator, noting that the retained lands will need to be serviced and connected to municipal water and sanitary services if they're not already. The Provincial Planning Statement, Middlesex County Official Plan, and Strathroy-Caradoc Official Plan and Zoning Bylaw all permit minor boundary adjustments, and the conveyance will not irregularize the shape of these lots or impact existing private services on the retained lands. And given the above and in the report, I am recommending approval of consent application B625, subject to the conditions provided in the report. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Any comments from committee members? Seeing none. And Mr. Kennedy is attending virtually? He's not online. Okay, so he's not there either. Okay, any comments, questions? No, then I'm looking for, the recommendation is it be approved, so subject to all these conditions. Frank, okay, is it seconded by Steve? All in favor? And that carries. Application 5.2 is an application for minor variance A8-2025. This is at 24 Front Street East. I think we saw this one last month, didn't we? Okay, Alyssa, I'll go to you for the report.
Thank you, Chair. The minor variance application before committee this evening is seeking relief from 4.61B of the Strathroy-Caradoc zoning bylaw to permit a dwelling unit on the main floor of a non-residential building, whereas the zoning bylaw states that dwelling units of a non-residential building are not to be located in a basement, cellar, or first story. The applicant is also seeking relief from section 10.43A to permit a dwelling unit on the main floor, whereas the bylaw states that it shall be located on the floor above the commercial use. The applicant is also seeking relief from section 4.63B to permit a dwelling unit minimum floor area of 15.8 square meters, whereas the bylaw requires the minimum floor area of a dwelling unit to be 40 square meters. And lastly, the applicant is seeking relief from section 4.23 120M to provide no additional parking on site, whereas one parking space per dwelling unit is required. The variance will facilitate the construction of a 15.8 square meter dwelling unit on the ground floor of a commercial building behind an existing commercial use in the same structure, which is a barber shop. The subject property is located south of Front Street East, east of Caradoc Street North, and the property is approximately 246 square meters in size with 7 meters of frontage along Front Street East. Plans contain an existing commercial building with commercial use on the main floor at the front of the structure and an existing dwelling unit on the second floor. The property provides one parking space at the rear of the property, accessed through an informal driveway off of Colburn Street. No comments were provided by the public prior to the development of this report. Provided agency comments include the Senior Development Coordinator noting that the lack of parking spaces for the residential unit may result in the loss of parking for neighboring businesses. And the St. Clair Region Conservation Authority notes that they have no concerns with the proposed application. I reviewed the application against the 4 tests of the Planning Act. As indicated in the report, it's staff's opinion that this application does meet the 4 tests. The location of the dwelling unit on the ground floor will not impact the existing commercial business, and it will meet the size requirements within the Ontario Building Code. And concerning the parking requirements, this request can be considered minor due to the location of this property in the downtown core and a less of a need for a personal vehicle. And as such, I am recommending that minor variance application A8-2025 be approved. Thank you.
Thank you, Alyssa. Are there any comments from people in the gallery? No? Any comments from committee members? Questions, concerns? Stephen?
No, just that I agree with the analysis that given that this is in the downtown core and the size of the units that's being built, you know, you could see a single person maybe who doesn't have a vehicle. You know, if there's any place in this municipality where we want a place for someone who doesn't have a vehicle, this is it. You know, where they can walk to go get the groceries and anything else. So while they may end up losing a parking space, they've definitely gained a consumer in the downtown core. So
Good. Okay. So I'm thinking you're wanting to approve this?
yes, yes,
Okay.
I will make
You're
that
supporting
motion.
that, second by Frank. All in favor? And that carries. Okay, then moving on to 5.3, it's an application for minor variance A10-2025. This is at 22-164 Troops Road. The owner is Kieran Baines in the audience today. Hi, welcome. I'm going to go, Alyssa, for your report.
Thank you, Chair. The minor variance application before committee is seeking relief from section 4.2 bylaw to permit an accessory building to be located 9.855 meters into the front yard, whereas the bylaw does not permit accessory buildings to be erected in the front yard. The applicant is also seeking relief from section 4.65B to permit a secondary suite that is 79.3% of the gross floor area of the main dwelling, whereas secondary suite than 40% of the gross floor area of the main dwelling when located in an accessory building. The applicant is also seeking relief from section 4.22 to permit a maximum accessory building lot coverage of 92.5%, whereas the bylaw limits this to 80% of the gross floor area of the main dwelling. Lastly, the applicant is also seeking relief from section 4.25 to permit an accessory building height of 6 meters, whereas the bylaw states that the height shall not exceed 4.5 meters for an accessory building. These variances will facilitate the construction of a detached garage with a 73 square meter secondary suite above in the front yard of a rural residential property. The subject property is located on the east side of Troops Road, north of Adelaide Road. The property is approximately 0.98 acres in size with 42 meters of frontage along Troops Road. The property contains a 1-story single detached dwelling on private services and sheds. No comments were provided by the public prior to the development of this report. Provided agency comments include the Upper Thames River Conservation Authority having no objections to the application. I have reviewed the application against the 4 tests of the Planning Act, and as indicated in the report, it is staff's opinion that this application does not meet all 4 tests. The 2-story accessory building is proposed to be located in front of the existing 1-story home, which does not make it subordinate, as is the intent of the zoning bylaw and secondary suites. The variances also cannot be considered minor due to the potential off-site impacts visually. And as such, I am recommending denial of minor variance application A10-2025. Thank you.
Thank you. Karen, do you want to make any comments on this?
Yes, can you just come up there?
Yes, please, at the microphone.
Hi, I'm Neil, Kieran's husband. Thank you for your time and attention towards this. Yeah, we've read the full report as well, and we had decided we'd be willing to forego the second story as a secondary suite, and instead just have it as a garage and then a storage or studio upstairs. And so for the aesthetic of, I forget, I don't know all the words, you'll have to excuse me, but
Don't worry about it.
as far as the aesthetic from my neighbor, what we did is we had a great conversation with him, and we have a signed letter with him agreeing to us building that right there, so he's okay with that. As for the location being in the front yard, we do have, and with the city on any of this, just to be clear, there is a house 22456 down the street, and they have a very similar layout. Their site plan is similar, where their garage is in the front yard, face like towards the road, and so we have that as an example. And as far as the size, so I guess the 40% rule, I guess, isn't there as long as we don't have a secondary suite, right? But still the 80% of the lot coverage. And so for that, we're willing to move our sheds. We have some accessory sheds. We remove all the sheds, and then according to my calculations, that ends up being within the right parameters. And so I think there's one other thing. There was some mention in the report of a, what was it called again? Again, I don't know the words, but basically trees that, you know, provide cover for the garage from the front lot line, from the road basically. Saying that those trees are not, they're premature. I don't know this for sure, so bear with me, but if the judgment call was made from Google Street View, that was from 10 years ago, so the trees are quite small. I have a picture here, and I have the letter and everything with me as well. I have a picture of what the trees look like now, and so they provide great coverage, so it would be quite hidden. But yeah, I think that's all I have to say.
Okay, thanks for that. Then I'll go to the committee members for any questions. Steve, or Mike?
Want to go to
Let's
Steve
go to
first?
Mike.
I don't have my hand up yet.
Oh. Mike, let's go with Mike, because I was looking at.
That's good. Thank you, Chair. So thank you. I mean, it's nice to have somebody that wants to work with the municipality and your neighbors. I will say, although staff is recommending a denial, and I understand fully why the report is accurate, it's proper, and from a staff point of view, it would require a denial. But from a committee point of view, I see it differently. A lot of the rules in place predate the current provincial planning statement, which is a provincial statement. We are encouraged frequently, regularly from correspondence from the provincial government about new styles and more secondary suites in residential places, better use of properties, and that's what I see this as. And I was actually quite encouraged to see a secondary suite. This would be, you know, a beautiful home for somebody, perhaps a young person or a family member, how you wanted to use it, and that would certainly be up to you. But as it's filed with us, I was prepared to try to motion it for acceptance. I know that would generate an automatic appeal at the county level. And we know that from the history of our work at here, but I don't know that necessarily means it's not going to occur, an automatic appeal at the county level, which is perfectly fine. County council would deal with that. And we have 2 of our council members that sit on county council. But I'm encouraged by your line. The height is not a concern for me. Really, the reality is if you flat top this roof, the height would be reduced, and I'm really not a fan of that, both in our climate, but technically not nearly as pleasing as the design being presented. I see, you know, you go down to the last pages where we have the architectural designs, it's an attractive looking building that would look very nice in the country in a rural area. I'm familiar with the houses on Troops Road. You know, I won't go on any longer, but even as presented, although it would be a challenge to move it forward, I am supportive of many parts of this proposal.
Okay, and I'll go to Steve.
Yes, thank you. I'm in the same vein as the deputy mayor on this one. I can think of a couple of homes, one on, what's the name of on Glengyle, just over the 402, where there's a garage turned sideways that was just built recently. Now, it's not a 2-story one, but it's definitely in front of the house. But because it's turned sideways, it doesn't present itself as being the dominant structure. And when I look at the drawings here, had it been turned around and the deck been out the front, then I would say yes, maybe it might appear as the dominant structure, but the way it's positioned, it looks just like a 3-car garage with a dormer on it. And you know, who's ever gonna live there is gonna have a really nice view off the deck, probably gonna need a mosquito killer, but you know, it's gonna be a decent place to live for someone, and I agree. We've encouraged by the province to approve accessory dwellings when and where it can be done, and I think without making the house look secondary. So I would support Mike's effort to push this application forward as is.
Okay. Thank you, Steve. Any other comments or questions? Frank's got one.
Well, not actually to the applicants, but I guess to the deputy mayor, and to whoever who wants to answer this. If it gets appealed, yeah, I guess what's the time frame, and if these folks are willing to make a compromise, I'm not sure that compromise that they suggested would meet all the requirements, but you know, I guess in terms of timing and costs and of all of this stuff, and will it in the end be turned down? You know, just thinking about being realistic in terms of timing and all that kind of stuff. So
I can answer a bit of that, but staff will have a better answer. So I do sit at county council, you're aware of it, but just so now they're aware. I'm one of the 2 representatives at county council, the mayor is the other. The last one that we went through and we knew it was going to be appealed, I think we saw that within about 6 weeks. So basically the next meeting, it's just how the meetings fall. So it comes back to us fairly quick, that I would expect to see it in the summertime. It's always an interesting conversation at county council. It's a conversation between the mayors and 3 deputy mayors in Middlesex County that forms county council, as to what is going on in their own communities and perhaps decisions. And although we may often be of like minds, you have previous decisions that people feel they have to abide by, and I would feel the same way. But I think, and we talked about it last time, I think it's good to put this challenge out there because the province is telling us this is what we should be doing. And at some point in time when we redo our official plan, which we know we need to do, and we kind of catch up to the provincial policy statement, provincial planning statement as it is now, these will likely be happening without the appeals. They probably won't even be in front of us. So I see a lot of what's in front of us today because the provincial planning statement is telling applicants to make these applications. We're being stuck by rules that just simply haven't caught up. And we're caught in this conundrum. So I think from my point of view, if they make sense in our community, I think we still push them forward and the county will deal with it as they need to. And perhaps that will, if all the communities are doing the same thing, I'd like to think that the provincial government can get this done even quicker so that we can get the rules where we need them to be, because we know we need to amend some of our rules. In fact, we know the county or the province is now talking about some minor variances as of right, which is a whole nother conversation that we'll probably be having.
Then I'll go back to staff. Erin?
Thank you very much, Chair. So I do want to just add a little bit of information. So when county appeals come forward, it is because the decisions that are made are contrary to the county official plan. So the consent that we recently saw that was appealed, we have very firm numbers in the county official plan that speaks to consents in the rural area. In terms of minor variance applications such as this, there really is no direction in the county official plan. They leave it quite vague for communities, like you said, to develop their own provisions through their zoning bylaws. So there really wouldn't be an opportunity for the county to appeal this. Staff, we have our professional obligations to do the 4 tests. We are, somewhat black and white sometimes. However, in this sort of situation, I don't see a reason for the county to appeal. I can't necessarily speak for county council or the director of building and planning, but certainly in this case, this is just zoning provisions that are being offended.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Back to Steve.
I was, if I can, a quick question. We need to provide some kind of justification for, okay. So I'm prepared to make the motion that we approve the applications. Given that the lot size is as big as it is, and the fact that there are no neighbors to the northwest, northeast, north, to the north, that would be directly affected by the proposed building, and that the I think I can leave it there.
Okay, so everyone follows that. I need a seconder for that by Mike. All in favor? That carries.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so then we're moving on to 5.4. It's an application for minor variance. This is at 711 West Road. We've seen this one before as well. And in attendance, we have Christina Wilson and Jordan Pinch. Hello, as well as the neighbors, Paul Purdy. In attendance. Thank you. Okay, first off, then I'll go to Alyssa for your report.
Excuse me.
Thank you, Chair. The minor variance application before committee is seeking relief from section 0.23A of the zoning bylaw to permit an accessory building with a minimum interior lot line setback of 0.1 meters whereas the bylaw requires 0.6 meters. The minor variance request will recognize the existing bar structure on the property, which was put in place by the previous owner. The subject property is located on the south side of Woods Edge Road, east of Adelaide Road in Mount Bridges. The property contains a single detached dwelling, below-grade pool, shed, uncovered deck, and a poolside open-air bar structure. The poolside bar was constructed around 5 years ago by the previous owner, and the bar structure did not require a building permit as it was below the minimum size requirements. And as such, the deficiency was only identified during a bylaw investigation filed in 2024. The previous owner was aware of this deficiency but did not address them prior to the sale of the property to the current owner. And the previous owner did constructed this structure as close to the side lot line as they did to make the most use out of that backyard. A previous minor variance application was brought forward to the Committee of Adjustment, file number A1 2025 on March 6th of this year for this property, seeking relief for the accessory bar in the deck, which was denied. And this application revisits the accessory bar structure setback, but has removed the deck encroachment variance. The applicant is in the process of removing the portion of the deck that does not meet the provisions of the zoning bylaw and will be in compliance once complete. No comments were provided by the public prior to the development of this report. Provided agency comments include the Senior Development Coordinator having concerns about water and snow runoff for the roof, which is directed towards the neighboring property. Runoff should be contained and controlled within the property. And another note was made that if eavesdrops are attached to that structure, that it would likely cause an encroachment onto the neighboring property. And the Upper Thames River Conservation Authority advised that they had no objections to this proposal. I reviewed the 4 tests of the Planning Act, and as indicated in the report, it is staff's opinion that this application does not meet the 4 tests, as there is potential for direct impacts onto the neighboring property. The lack of separation between these structures and the fence creates concerns about snow and water runoff from the roof of the structure. I'm recommending denial of minor variance application A11 2025. Thank you.
Thank you, Alyssa. So first, I'm going to go to the owners of the property. Do you want to make any comments to the committee?
Quickly, we were here 2 months ago. We got stuck with a house with a lot of problems, and we are underway. We've removed all of the deck boards on the side deck. We haven't dealt with the structure boards themselves because there's actually electrical and gas running under there back to the pool, so we've got to find a way to get that over, but all the deck boards are off. We can't walk over to the fence anymore. As per the bar structure, we don't use it. The last time we were here, my neighbor said that he didn't have an issue with the bar structure. It's there, it's hidden from his house by some mature trees, and we might use it in July when we have our kids' birthday parties, but we're not outside making any sort of loud noise or anything that's existing, and would be a significant financial burden to have to replace or move because it is built into the concrete. It's not actually concrete, I don't know, it's kind of squishy beside the pools.
It's covered concrete.
Okay, it's covered concrete.
Okay.
There we go. So we're asking council to approve this, or councilor to approve the bar structure.
Okay. And I would like to go, Mr. Purdy? The neighbor, right?
Yeah, so
Do you have any comments you'd like to make?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes, as I said at the last meeting, I do not have any problems with this structure. I know that they were saying there's multiple codes that it doesn't meet, but that structure, I don't believe is causing any harm, so I have no problems at all with that staying where it is.
Okay, thank you for that.
Before he leaves.
Okay, Mike, do you have a question directly to
I
him?
wanted to try to grab.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I just asked you a question.
Yes.
So I raised my hand so quick before you left, but thank you for coming back up. So you live next door, closest to this structure.
Yes.
Are you concerned about, it sounds like, and I recall part of this, not the entire conversation at the time, but like the removal of the deck so that the deck becomes compliant. Were you concerned that having that, like this raised deck where people would potentially peer over into your property, is that a concern?
Which
Is that, so they're removing part of the deck to make it
Yes.
compliant?
Yes.
But the deck as it was built in the day, was it ever an issue of privacy between you and, I guess it really was your previous neighbor since they've sold the house? These are your new neighbors. Was that a privacy concern that?
There was a few things, yeah, there was privacy and it was also attached to the fence, which is not meant to be weight bearing for all the extra load.
Oh, the fence was actually holding it up? Oh, no, so there was a structure underneath it, but.
Yeah, it's under, but the
Okay.
outside joist is attached to the fence
What,
post.
okay, so there was
Yeah.
some weight bearing there.
Yeah.
Okay,
But yeah,
that's,
the bar
that was
structure
one of my
I have no
concerns.
problems with.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Steve, question?
Yeah, just, again, sorry to Mr. Purdy, but you can stay there. The water runoff off this structure, is it causing any problem?
I don't believe so. It drops off the roof and hits the top of the fence and just runs down the fence.
Okay. Mike?
I'll go back to my original thoughts here is, clearly we need to help these people come to a solution. It's a beautiful home, it's a beautiful area, and you've inherited a bit of an issue, and somehow we have to for you. I would motion that as long as the fence wasn't attached, or the deck wasn't attached to the fence and everything was fine, I would go with it. But I have one concern, is there's a comment in here, but I don't see that it's from the fire department. And that is a comment about a potential fire hazard due to lack of separation. So staff has this been reviewed by the fire chief? I'm looking, that's about halfway down in section 2 of the analysis. So is that just a comment you have made, or has that gone to the fire chief, and is that something supported within the Fire Act? I think it's the FFPA. Is there something there that we need to be aware of from fire separation, that type of potential hazard?
Through the chair, the comment made in the report wasn't actually from the fire department. It was more from like a building code perspective of just the spatial separation of the structure being that close. But again, for what it's being used for, like the risk of that bar catching on fire then catching on the fence is generally low, but yeah, the comment wasn't made from the fire department themselves. It was just more about the building separation.
So it leaves me in a bit of a quandary, because I'd like to know from our fire chief what the requirements for fire separation are between properties. Periodically, we do have this come up. I think we've seen it once or twice this term, where there's mandatory fire separations, and I don't know if this applies and how that applies, so. I'll be quiet now, go ahead.
Maybe if it helps, we just approved not too long ago a pool shed that I believe was 1 foot from the fence, so not much of a separation. And there's no other building directly behind this. Like if it was between the two houses, because I can remember a few years ago we had someone who was trying to build a deck between the two houses, which would have left only 4 feet between the deck and the neighboring house. I see that as a bigger issue than here, where, yeah, the fence might catch fire, but it would take a while to get to a structure.
Yeah, you've helped me in my memory. That was a garage issue. I remember that on the other one, so. Yeah, I think we really need to do something to help get this situation resolved for these people, and I'm actually quite supportive. Again, I will say that staff's review is sorry, I turned that off. I will say that staff's review of everything is appropriate and accurate. The joys of sitting at these desks is that we get to consider things from our point of view. So we approve this application, leaving the the shed, I'll refer to it as is, and as long as the deck itself is removed from contacting the fence, from being like secured in any way to the fence, I'd be happy with that, and I would make that motion.
And I'm looking for support. Frank?
Second and a comment.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think in this case, the deck issue's been, which was the big issue, has been dealt with, and I think neighbor being supportive of the other issue and fully aware of the situation, then I support it as well. So I would support approval of this as well.
Okay, thanks for that.
I just have a
Give a
comment
comment.
before we go to
Yeah.
vote. I would just like to commend both groups of people on their willingness to get along. This is about as difficult a situation as you can get, and your willingness to take apart the deck, which I know was a big reason why you purchased the house, shows that you want to get along with your neighbor. And Mr. Purdy, I gotta say, there's a lot of people who would be standing there screaming their lungs out, and you're willing to work with them. So I think you should both be commended for your actions. So.
Okay, good. So I've got a motion and supported. All in favor? That carries. So we have one more. It's application 5.5, application for minor variance A12-2025. This is at 636 Regent Street in Mount Bridges. The owner is Invest Equity Investments MIC, and the agent's Brian Can. I believe you're attending. There's Brian. And Alyssa, I'd like to go to you for the report.
Thank you, Chair. The minor variance report committee is seeking relief from section 4.65A of the Strathroy-Caradoc zoning bylaw to permit a secondary suite that is 87.7 square meters in size, whereas a maximum of 75 square meters is permitted. The applicant is seeking relief from section 4.237I to permit a driveway width of 12.19 meters, whereas the maximum driveway width permitted is 8 meters. These variances will facilitate the construction of a garage addition to the existing home with a secondary suite located on the secondary floor and a wider driveway to accommodate the required 4 parking spaces on site for the residential uses. The subject property is located on the north side of Regent Street, east of Queen Street in Mount Bridges. The property is approximately 656 square meters in size, with 21 meters of frontage along Queen Street and 34 meters of frontage along Regent Street. The lands currently contain a single detached dwelling on municipal services with no designated parking spaces or driveway, and the applicant is proposing to build an addition onto the existing home for the attached garage and secondary suite above. The attached garage will provide parking spaces for 3 vehicles for the main residential use on the property, and the additional required 4th parking space is being proposed on the side of the attached garage, as there's not sufficient parking spaces in front of the attached garage to accommodate this. No comments were provided by the public for the development of this report. Provided agency comments include the roads department providing a condition that the owner provide a minimum 11-meter clearance from the intersection of Queen Street and Regent Street when constructing the new driveway. I have reviewed the application against the 4 tests of the Planning Act, and as indicated in the report, it is staff's opinion that this application does meet the 4 tests. As the secondary suite is part of the main structure, the increase in size will not be noticeable or create negative impacts from the street. And the increased driveway width will ensure that all required 4 parking spaces can be provided on the property for the residential uses proposed, with 3 of these parking spaces in the attached garage, which helps to mitigate public safety or visual concerns. And as such, I am recommending that minor variance application A12-2025 be approved. Thank you.
Thank you, Alyssa. Brian, do you have any comments to make?
Not really, just more of a question for the condition that you say about 11 meters from the intersection. Where does that lie actually? It shows on the drawings that we submitted, we have about 11.6 meters to the property line. So how much further do we have to the intersection point? I want to make sure we can meet that condition. You understand the question?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Through chair, I guess we need to look at the plan a little further and just make sure that whatever is submitted as to the satisfaction of the municipality does show that it's 11 meters away.
I guess at what point are you guys saying is the intersection, is it at the road connection, my property line, or not my property, the property line?
Excuse me.
It's to the edge of the curb, so wherever the radius stops.
Oh, so you get another 11 feet as normal?
Yeah, so wherever the radius of the road
Okay.
stops, it's from where it starts to become straight, you gotta go 11 meters to the edge of the driveway.
So we can still meet that with the proposal that's been laid out?
I'm not sure, you got to confirm that.
Okay, that's fine. Just wanted to figure out that part, so that I don't wanna say, yeah, we're gonna go ahead and then not be able to go and do it properly, right?
Good, appreciate that.
Okay.
And concerns from the committee, Steve?
Yeah, I did drive by the property, and it's a wide open, wide lot. I think this is great, you know, it's what we expect to happen when we put services down streets and on bridges with the large lots that people start either severing or building an additional dwelling unit.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments, questions? Mike?
I'll motion the approval.
Okay, got a motion, supported, second by Steve. All in favor? And that carries. Okay, any other announcements or inquiries by members? No, seeing none. Other business, I'm going to Jake. He's got a couple of things. Oh, you do have something, Steve.
I did. I just wanted to know that, especially I should have included a thanks to them that they worked hard on the issue to try and resolve the pool and
Good.
did everything in their power to assist with the residents. So.
Good, thanks, Steve. Jake?
Thank you, Chair. So the first other business is a refund request for 676 Innandale. So this was an application that came to the committee on March 6, 2025. It was approved, and it was for a severance. It was a 200-acre parcel to be divided into parcels. And like I said, the committee did approve that. So following the approval, the applicants reached out to a surveyor like they normally would to prepare a survey, and at that time the surveyor discovered that the two pieces don't actually touch. So when the applicants had initially reached out to us and come to us for a pre-council meeting, they had indicated that it was, or their lawyer, sorry, had indicated that it was one parcel, so the 200-acre parcel, and that they wanted to divide it into two equal pieces. I suggested that they reach out to a lawyer to investigate whether the properties had actually merged or not. I don't believe that they had done that, and so unfortunately it wasn't discovered until after the approval that the pieces hadn't actually merged. Everything that we had in our system indicated that they were one parcel, that they had in fact merged. We had also checked with the land registry office's systems, and they also indicated it was one large parcel. Again, it wasn't until after the application was approved that it was discovered that they don't actually touch, and therefore they couldn't have merged. So we have a refund policy, and that says if it's gone through the whole process, it's been heard by the committee that they are not eligible for a refund, because we've done all the work at that point. So the applicants have requested a full refund of the application, being $1,800, and we're looking for direction from the committee on that refund request.
Interesting case. So they do their homework, is that what you're suggesting, that they didn't research it?
That's what it seems. Again, we had suggested that they reach out to a lawyer to investigate whether they had actually merged on title before they had even submitted an application. I don't know for sure whether they had done that or not, but they went forward with the application, so I guess we have to assume that they didn't.
Okay. Good. Frank, do you have a comment?
Yeah, I have a couple comments. I mean, this is another situation where, you know, I think government and health records and government and land registry is pretty antiquated system. They, you know, a lot of direction on what we do and how we do and all that kind of stuff, but their own systems really don't work very well. And slap at the provincial government that they need to improve their land registry system. The other whack would be, I guess, against the lawyer. Like we're being the ones to give money back for mistakes that the lawyer made. So again, I always have issues with people don't question lawyers on their errors. They go to someone else and say don't make mistakes, but they do. And so I do have issues with giving a refund here, because I think our staff have done all of the work associated with what needed to be done and have spent that money. So if we give the money back, taxpayers see whole, and that's always one of my issues is pay for all of the costs. So I'm not really excited about giving this money back. So.
Okay, Mike.
Thank you. I appreciate everything that Councillor Kennis has said. And I agree, antiquated systems, but if the system had been properly functioning the way one would think it would function, when our staff queried it, it should have shown 2 separate parcels and the process would have stopped. So I guess in my mind, it's at that, it's not a fault of our staff at all, in any way, shape, or form.
No, and that's what I'm saying. I'm not. When I'm criticizing the system, I'm not criticizing the Strathroy-Caradoc system. Let me make that clear. I'm criticizing the registry system, which is a provincial thing. So again, I agree 100%. If the system was properly set up in the first place, they'd see that and they'd say, oh, there isn't one, and we don't need to do anything, and life would carry on. So. So that
I'm leaning that we should refund because staff did what they should have. They just didn't get the answer they should have for some reason.
Well, we're going back and forth in arguing, but
Yes.
I think then we as a municipality are paying for the errors of others. So
We would be, yes.
I'm gonna go to Steve.
So the legislation says that planning is supposed to be self-supportive and not supposed to be funded by the taxpayers. And in this case, the process went all the way through, even though our staff urged them to take one more step that would have stopped the process in the first place. So unfortunately, as unfortunate as it is, I think we have to ensure for the rest of the taxpayers funded, and because the work was done, I think unfortunately in this case they have to pay.
Okay, so you're making that motion?
Yes, I am.
Okay, a seconder for that. Frank, favor? Good. So the request for fee refund is denied. And Jake, you had something else?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just a really quick update on 8040 Irish Drive. That's the appeal that we received that Deputy Mayor was referring to earlier. So the county has decided to move forward with that appeal and not rescind it. So there's a hearing scheduled for the first week of October for that. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Jake. So then number 8 is the schedule of meetings. The next one, July 3rd. And then I'm looking for a recommendation to adjourn the meeting. Frank, seconded by Dale, all in favor, and we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.